Hello everyone! For today's video, I'm going to shine a spotlight on a lesser-known science fiction title, one my friends in the UK may be more familiar with, 1963's Unearthly Stranger. In this film, directed by John Krish, scientists who have been studying mind projection and teleportation to other worlds are dying in disturbing ways. When Dr. Mark Davidson is assigned to continue the work of the most recently deceased, he can tell something's wrong, but the deaths are so shrouded in government secrecy that no one will tell him anything. As he struggles to unravel the mystery, he also begins to notice some bizarre things about his wife Julie, a woman he met under odd circumstances. It's my understanding that Unearthly Stranger is a rare British film. I don't know what formats it's officially been released in, if any. I bought it on eBay. There's someone on eBay selling burned copies of the movie. You make the purchase, the person takes a blank DVD and burns the movie file onto the DVD and mails it to you. Is it legal? I don't know. I bought this several months ago. Now that I know our Blu-ray player also functions as a multi-region DVD player, I wish I'd just bought an official copy. Then I could avoid this whole awkward explanation. I've since learned that the movie is on the Internet Archive as well, in its original pristine black and white. There is a junky colorized version which you should ignore. As for the film itself, I liked it. It's a blend of sci-fi, horror, and drama that has some striking visuals and a handful of intriguing characters. Where it's light on explanations and concrete facts, it's heavy on mystery and paranoia, a pervasive emphasis on that vague, unnerving feeling covering any thinness in the plot. From the start, it's disorienting, opening with a series of Dutch angles galore, and shiny pavement too, which makes me think somebody behind the camera must have been a Carol Reed fan. In this frantic prologue, a man, our protagonist, runs and runs and runs, eventually reaching an office where he gets a tape recorder going. Sweating profusely, he announces that he's got to tell his story, since he expects to die any minute. And with this double indemnity type framing device and a determined fourth wall break, we're sent into the past. The off-kilter style evident in this first sequence comes and goes throughout the film, and somehow even the very basic settings, consisting mostly of the office and the house and the quiet stretch of road that connects the two, have an unnatural feel to them. The story does seem a bit prolonged at times, though the interesting visuals help distract from the fact that the narrative can be slow to unfold and divulge information. The film felt to me like a feature-length Outer Limits episode. The difference is that with the Outer Limits, you usually see some sort of creature or entity, while here the antagonist makes its presence known only through a long, high-pitched screech, which I'm not going to play a clip of, you're welcome. John Neville plays Mark Davidson, the perturbed scientist, giving a very good performance as a man fumbling for answers, trying to do his job and maintain his happy home life while sensing there's something wrong with both. Neville was an acclaimed Shakespearean actor turned motion picture and TV star with a decades-long filmography. I recognized him. I just couldn't put my finger on where I knew him from. I looked him up and it turns out it's The X-Files. He plays a member of the Syndicate known only as the Well-Manicured Man, appearing in 8 episodes plus the first movie. Not as big a part as the cigarette-smoking man, but still pretty prominent. He also played Mr. Lawrence in the 90s version of Little Women, but I don't think I remember him in that. It's been a long time. It's also been a long time since I watched The X-Files, but that was probably 10 or 12 years ago, and the last time I saw Little Women was longer ago than that. Gabriella Licudi plays Julie, Mark's young Swiss wife, who he married just a couple weeks after meeting her. In contrast with what I expected, given the film's premise, Licudi gives a surprisingly emotional performance. The Julie we see, especially when she's alone, seems to be a sensitive character, lonely and fearful, not sinister. But our first introduction to her occurs one night when Mark comes home to find her sleeping with her eyes wide open. That is freaky, but I would say it's not too terrible. I used to sleep with my eyes open when I was little. Gave my mom the creeps. But then he realizes he never sees her blink, and also, she has no pulse. Clearly something's off, and from this point on, our suspicions start to stack up. But while this discovery sends Mark rushing to his department director in a panic, later, he seems to completely forget about it and move on. He rushes in, all, "There's something weird about my wife. She's got no pulse and never blinks her eyes. You must come and see her." So skeptical Professor Lancaster comes over for dinner and does notice strange things, but they don't talk about it until much later. And then, "Listen, Mark, your wife may not be human. There are all these weird things about her." "How dare you!" This seemed crazy. Granted, Mark's not privy to some of the things we witness, like her pulling a hot dish out of the oven with her bare hands, or scaring children on a playground and making a baby cry by smiling at it, and the weird tracks left in her face by her tears. But his ignorance about those things does not explain the way he yo-yos from being incredibly disturbed and freaking out about the lack of a pulse and the no blinking thing one minute to being overprotective and completely obstinate the next. Just the pulse alone thing. Everybody has a pulse, dude. What? Did you just get over that? Did you convince yourself that though there must be some rational explanation? You're a scientist! Come on! I spent much of the film trying to understand if he was suspicious of her or not, because I was fully prepared. I went into this movie expecting a tale of suspicion, and this really threw me off. I kept asking, is he aware of these things and in denial? Or does he really not see? Or is he under some sort of spell? Has she tricked him somehow? Made him forget? I don't know what's going on. I got hung up on this, and it drove me a little nuts. But eventually, I think I came to a better understanding. I hearkened back to the beginning, where we see a man very much in love with his wife, and confident in her love for him. And when we see her interacting with him, it seems genuine, and I realized this isn't just a story about a scientist wondering if he's married an alien and trying to catch her, and then her trying to catch him. It's more of a personal story. It's a tale of romance that crosses a barrier. It's about a shared love that is blind and resilient, and probably doomed to heartache. That's the realization I came to that I felt helped explain the behavior. And yet, then again, just when it had me thinking, oh, so this is a love story after all, it kept going, and I found myself watching the last scene and thinking, is it a love story? The ambiguous final shot is unsettling. It reignites the sense of uneasiness and leaves us not with a sense of closure, but with a feeling that only part of the mystery has been solved, and we might actually have just opened a whole other can of worms. Plus, there is the whisper of a cynical and slightly noirish component here at the very end. It definitely made me feel like, that kind of pokes my love story theory in the eye. The rest of the cast includes Philip Stone as Professor Lancaster, the perceptive but exasperated director, Jean Marsh as the efficient department secretary, and Patrick Newell as Major Clark. The inconvenience and frustration of bureaucratic red tape and the government's insistence on secrecy is a big theme here, and the Major is security personified. Newell plays him with comically off-putting mannerisms and a certain slappability that makes the character memorably unlikable. There's also an amusing bit where he has an argument with Lancaster while examining his sofa like he's in a furniture store. He's a very strange character. He's somehow weirder than Julie, and she might be an extraterrestrial. As I watched the movie a second time while working on this review, I picked up a couple clever exchanges I had missed before. I also noticed a couple subtle clues, which gave me greater appreciation for how well done the mystery angle is. It had several twists that got me good. The number of characters is small, but the performances are entertaining, and the story's unique pathos makes it stand out. The film didn't quite follow the path I'd predicted, and I applaud it for that, while the crisp black-and-white cinematography gives it additional artistic appeal. Those are my thoughts on Unearthly Stranger. I'm glad I finally got to see this one, and I recommend checking it out sometime if you ever get the opportunity. If you've already seen it, I'd love to hear your take on it in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week with a new one. Thanks for watching.